All right, we're now live on YouTube. So for those watching right now, I'm Drew Mahowald. Obviously, this is the About the Labor Show. We're doing a little bit of an impromptu show today. Zach Jacobson is joining us from Cheesehead TV. We're going to talk a little Vikings-Packers. We're going to throw a little banter at each other. Should be a good time. And they're now also live on Periscope, I believe. I'll double check that. But to start us off, Zach, I have a question for you, and that is that
Yes,
I drafted Jamal Williams in my fantasy league. I need to know if that's the right Packers running back to draft.
it's starting to look like the Packers are going to go into the season with Ty Montgomery as their starting running back, which is a little bit as a surprise move considering how Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones carried the load last season. But after the first 2 weeks of the season, once they get Aaron Jones back, they'll kind of go into like a more rotational role where Ty Montgomery comes in on third downs, passing downs. Jamal Williams just kind of more like the first and second down back. I don't know what Aaron Jones' role is going to be, but for your first week of fantasy, I don't know. I don't know if I would call that the right move, especially with Montgomery.
Okay.
He's going to be able to rack up receiving yards, the rushing yards. It's your call, man. I mean, I'm far from a fantasy expert.
All right. Well, that's not the answer I was exactly looking for, but we'll take. At least I know now that if I can maybe look a little bit more about going after Montgomery if I have to. But anyway, that was kind of a warm-up question. I don't think we'll talk much fantasy anymore after this. But now we will.
I'll lie to you and tell you that Williams was the right choice.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. But now I actually want to get into some stuff that I think we'll both kind of agree on to start with, and that is that Khalil Mack is a Chicago Bear, and we don't really like that. Khalil Mack, the big trade with Oakland, we don't know what John Gruden's doing. He's kind of blowing things up in Oakland. Suddenly, Oakland is the oldest team in the NFL. Khalil Mack is now on how long of a contract is that? Like 5 or 6 years or something with the Bears?
I think it was 6 years.
6 years. So he'll be a Bear for a long time back in the Mac and Blue division, as we might call it now. So I know the Packers were kind of in the sweepstakes to get Khalil Mack. How are you reacting to that? Did you ever think the Packers had a chance to get Khalil Mack? And I guess are you worried maybe about Aaron Rodgers' health a little bit more now that there's a pass rusher like Khalil Mack in the division?
I didn't think the Packers had, a significant chance. I knew the chance was there because, there were reports out there that the Packers were one of the several teams that reached out to the Raiders with, pretty big offers. So they were definitely serious about going after Mack. And I mean, they had 2 first-round picks in their pocket. It was just a matter of long-term, is this the right move? And as Brian Gutekunst said, is this going to help the team win now? Is this going to kind of push them over the top? You could argue that this team is already going to be able to get over the top, even with or without Khalil Mack. So obviously a lot of that would be based on Aaron Rodgers' arm, but that's a whole other thing. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he's gone against Jared Allen. He's gone against Julius Peppers. He's gone against so many guys in that division that have proven to be, just pains to him, guys that have just completely disrupted what the Packers are trying to do on offense. So Khalil Mack, he's definitely a game changer. That's why he was signed to as big of a deal as he was. That's why he was as big of a commodity as he was. That's why he's Khalil freaking Mack, because he's a big deal. Mm-hmm. So I still do, he's a game changer, but I don't think it's to the point where, as one tweet said, Aaron Rodgers is going to have to strap wads of cash to his body to protect himself from Khalil Mack, because he just got that big contract. So I don't think he's at that point yet, but it's definitely going to be something to watch. 2 games a season, Rodgers has to go up against Mack.
Yeah, I know for me, I'm thinking about the Bears defense a little bit and how, I would say they're top 10 defense maybe last year. They were definitely kind of on the rise. Vic Fangio's got all these young athletes that he's been working with, and that unit was pretty solid last season. And now you have Khalil Mack join the fold, a superstar in his prime. That's clearly, a signal to especially the Packers and Vikings, I think, from the Bears, that we want to compete with you right now. And we don't care that our quarterback is in his second season. We don't care that, our team is kind of looked upon maybe, or I guess not looked upon very much by the rest of the league. We want to compete with you right now. We have the defense to do it. If our offense can kind of keep up, the Bears can really make some noise in the NFC North.
I agree. I was actually high on the Bears before they got Khalil Mack, just because they had as good of an offseason as they did. Getting Allen Robinson, Trey Burton, which was a sneaky good signing at tight end. And I've been speaking highly of their defense just for the last few years, since 2015, really. Vic Fangio alone is alone to kind of uplift that entire group, just based on his experience alone and how he runs that entire group. So getting Mack, that definitely just kind of pushes them over that hump a little bit. I still think it's definitely the Packers-Vikings division, but yeah, it kind of makes you wonder about the Lions. I mean, like, what are the Lions doing? What do they have? What have they done of any significance recently that's gonna help them compete in the NFC North? Because as of right now, they're my division door.
Well, I know it's funny that I can look at the Lions now and say, are they the worst team in the division? I mean, and they could be like a 500 team. Right at like 8-8, 7-9 would be, I guess, where I would have them right now. And yeah. I feel like is that the worst team in the division? I mean, the NFC North is a juggernaut right now, and that's it's really weird how respected this division, I think, at least for me, is now. I mean, in the past, it's been, the Bears and Lions have kind of been up and down. The Packers have always been kind of, I don't want to say running the division. That might be something Packers fans would disagree with. That you might say that they have run the division for the last decade or so. But it's been pretty clear that the Packers and Vikings, a little bit have been the division champions for the most part. And the Bears, Lions have been kind of fighting for relevance. But, now it's everybody's really good. And it seems like all these division games, especially on the road, if you have to go on the road to play a division opponent, regardless of who it is within the division, it's going to be a tough game.
I mean, are you really going to sit there and tell me that the Packers haven't owned that division for the last decade? I mean, come on, Drew.
What
did they win? Like, what was it? 4 or 5 straight NFC North titles?
That's probably right. Yeah.
Come on.
Hey, okay. We're going to transition into Aaron Rodgers here shortly, in the big contract. So I'll say this: without Aaron Rodgers, the Packers have 0 of those NFC North titles and are probably a 4 to 5 win team every season.
Well, that's good. It's a good thing.
I don't know if you agree with that.
No, you're probably right. Aaron Rodgers masked a lot of flaws in that team, but we're not living in the twilight zone. Aaron Rodgers is definitely the Packers quarterback, and he has been for since 2008.
Yeah.
So
no, that's the thing. Like, I feel weird being like, well, without Aaron Rodgers, the Packers would stink, but they have Aaron Rodgers. Like, that's real life. Like he is the Packers quarterback. So
yeah, it's a moot point.
It's a moot point. Exactly. It's only hypothetical to bring up that situation. But let's move into that contract, Aaron Rodgers. I don't even have the exact numbers on me. I know they're a lot. But from the sounds of it, it looks like he did cut the Packers some slack and will allow the team to be a little bit flexible here when they try to, in the future, try to bring in more good players. I think he made a point, on the Pat McAfee podcast, when he went on there, I think he made a point to say that, I don't want to handicap the team, that this is a partnership, where both sides are trying to get benefit here. It's not just paying the player a bunch of money and then nobody else gets the freedom to do anything to improve their status. So what do you think of the contract? Is it too much money? Are you worried about the Packers being crippled financially down the stretch here?
I mean, in 2013, they signed Aaron Rodgers to, at the time, it was the biggest contract in NFL history for a quarterback. And then that was right after they signed Clay Matthews to the biggest contract in NFL history for his position. So one of them before the other. I'm not sure if it was Rodgers then Matthews or Matthews then Rodgers. It was one of the two. But they fit 2 huge contracts like that on the salary cap. And that's just a testament to Russ Ball. So that kind of gives me less desire to worry going forward, just because Russ Ball is there, and he wouldn't put the Packers in a position to financially handicap them for years to come. I mean, for example, you look at his contract this year, they only raised his cap hit by like $300,000. So that was, he went from like 20.6 million to 20.9 million on the salary cap, like towards the cap hit. And next year it rises to 26.5 million. So at that point, they'll have a few contracts coming off the books. They'll have rollover money from this year's salary cap, which I think right now they're sitting a little under 11 million. Actually, that's changed now since they signed the practice squad players. So I'm not sure what the exact approximation is, but they're not going to be in a position where they're going to be financially crippled. It's later in the contract, around 2020, 2021, where it starts kind of getting into the 30s, 32 million, 31 million, and then it dips to 37 million, which is, pretty goddamn extravagant for a contract.
Yeah.
But
at that time,
by that
point, the salary cap to be a lot higher than what it is right now.
Exactly. Bingo.
So the salary cap the percentage of the cap taken by the quarterback is going to roughly stay the same throughout the contract. I mean, that's kind of why it's set up that way. That's how Kirk Cousins is also set up, where it's kind of an increasing number, but the percentage of the cap is going to be roughly the same throughout. So, but yeah, I mean, speaking from the Vikings perspective, I can definitely vouch for the idea that you can pay a quarterback a ton of money and still be able to sign guys to large contracts that are not the quarterback. Vikings have extended so many key players now. And the Packers have now a little bit kind of had a change of heart here, and they're being a little bit more aggressive in free agency handing out big contracts. Jimmy Graham is the big addition for me that I'm kind of scared of for the Vikings to go against. But obviously they've done more than just what they had in the past with Ted Thompson, where they sign guys, undrafted free agents, and they draft guys and wait for them to develop. So it's different for the Packers, but I'm sure it's an encouraging time, right, where things are a little bit different, but it's got to be a different feeling maybe to have this type of attitude towards free agency and towards bringing players on and being a little bit more aggressive, right?
Yeah, it's a totally different feeling. And, just seeing just this past weekend, on cutdown day, Brian Gutekunst, he asked all of Ted Thompson's like former draft picks from the 2015 class. Ty Montgomery is the only one left from that 2015 class. Wow. Yeah, just Ty Montgomery, no one else. So it's pretty crazy. And obviously, you can't really call him Ted's guys because, Gutekunst was obviously in the room when they drafted them because he's been in the organization for so long. Oh, yeah. But it's definitely it's a nice change of heart to see, because you don't know what you're going to expect from this organization now. You don't know if you're going to wake up one morning and get a notification that the Packers traded for Earl Thomas or something, or the Packers signed so-and-so. It's a new feeling. And a lot of people are forgetting too. Like, I don't want to sell Ted Thompson short here. Last year, he signed the most free agents in an offseason that he had signed since 2006, I believe. I think it was like 7.
Okay.
Obviously, one of them was Martellus Bennett, but we won't talk about that. But yeah, so a lot of people kind of sell Ted short in that department. He was getting a little more aggressive on his last. He's getting kind of in more of like a win now mode. Probably because he knew his time as general manager was coming short. He knew he was going to step down after the season. But I don't know. But as I said, it's an encouraging feeling to know that the Packers, they're in different hands now, and it's a total different power shift too, because it runs through Gutekunst, it runs through Mark Murphy, it runs through Mike McCarthy. It's like it's a trio at the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's kind of how the Vikings sort of were before Rick Spielman kind of became official general manager. This would have been, I believe, 2012, I think, when he kind of officially took over. Christian Ponder was that regime's last first-round pick in 2011, so that's kind of maybe kind of accelerated the transition there. But moving forward here, we talked about some guys you've acquired. I kind of want to touch on this defense because the perception for the Packers defense, and it's definitely my opinion too, is that the secondary is very young, very vulnerable, and it will probably get beaten up on quite a bit this season. That's my opinion anyway. And I mean, the run defense looks pretty stout. You got a lot of players that can shoot gaps and take up blockers inside. Mike Daniels, Blake Martinez are tremendous players, but it seems to me like that secondary it's talented but very young, and I would expect the teams are going to be able to throw on that. How do you feel about the secondary now? I mean, you drafted all these young players the last couple of seasons, I believe first and second round picks both the last couple of years. So have they shown up in camp and in preseason, and do you think they'll be able to make an impact right away?
Well, Josh Jackson, he's been arguably the best cornerback in the preseason, like in football, which is, they drafted him at 45th overall, which is crazy, that he even fell that far, because he's a damn talented cornerback, and the fact that they got him at that point was just blew my mind. As for Jair Alexander, I see a lot of Deion Sanders in him. Obviously not from a talent perspective, because that's saying a lot. There's some pretty big damn shoes to fill, but his attitude, how he acts on the field, how he plays the ball. He's definitely, he's a talker. He talks a lot on the field. And he plays. You got
to be able to talk as a cornerback. You got to have the confidence to talk and trash talk. I mean, Jalen Ramsey is your perfect example, right?
Yeah, picture perfect example. Some of the best cornerbacks ever have been just
Richard Sherman.
Running
there you go.
Constantly. Richard Sherman. Yeah, he kind of set the mold for that too.
Yeah,
but I think a sneaky good signing was getting Tramon Williams back, just because of how well he played last year. He surrendered the 1.0 passer rating in man coverage. It was like 54 point something, just when thrown his way. And he's 35 now, so that's insane that he's performing at that level. And the amount of experience he's going to bring to that cornerback room is going to be tremendous. Now, as for the safeties, a large part of their success is probably going to be dependent on Mike Pettin putting them in position to succeed, because Clinton Dix, he didn't have, obviously everybody knows this, he didn't have a great season last year. Everyone's counting on him to bounce back. It's going to probably all depend on him being in position to succeed, because Dom Capers, he had him playing 20 yards down the field, completely away from the ball. Yeah, he was like off in no man's land. Like what the hell was that? So, and then they have Kentrell Bryce, who's an undrafted safety. A really cool dude. I was given the pleasure to interview him actually and write a piece on him. And second-year safety Josh Jones is probably going to be best suited in the box as an extra linebacker. He probably has to be best suited in the box as an extra linebacker, because Jake Ryan's gone for this season. Oren Burks, their third-round pick, he's dealing with a shoulder injury. So you don't know what you're going to get from that secondary, really. It's a little iffy, but if there's any light coming from that secondary, it's going to be from the cornerback group, which is really the opposite of what we've been saying the last couple of years. So there's a lot of confidence radiating from there.
Yeah, which that's good, and I really expect this group to be, probably a top 10 unit in like 3 to 4 years. Because I think there's a lot of talent there, and I love Jair Alexander as a prospect, and then I think Josh Jones, like you mentioned, as a linebacker there, that's something I hadn't even thought of initially. But now that I think about what I thought about him in his draft profile, it really makes sense to me. And Pettin seems like a guy that's willing to get a little bit more creative than maybe Capers was. So the Packers, to me, they're not going to be dominant right now, at least in the secondary. But you give it some time, and when that Rodgers figure is going to be at 34 million or 37 million or whatever, I think the defense he'll have with him will be pretty darn good. But it's 2018, and the future is the future. Now is right now. The Vikings are coming off a 13-3 season. The Packers are coming off a 7-9 season. How do you? Let's just go right. Let's just do it. Record predictions right now. What do you have for the Packers? What do you have for the Vikings? And what do you have? I guess the entire NFC North. What do you got?
I have the Green Bay Packers in 2018 finishing 11-5, a crisp 11-5.
Okay.
11-5. Nothing like 13-3, 12-4. They're gonna finish with the first seed.
Okay.
I have the Minnesota Vikings also finishing 11-5.
All right.
Now here's the kicker. The Packers are gonna. What week do we play our second game? I'm not sure.
It's week. There's week 2, and then I believe it's Thanksgiving week, the Sunday after Thanksgiving. I believe it's the second game.
Oh wow! I was hoping it'd be late in the season. That's gonna be my tiebreaker. Packers are gonna have that tiebreaker over the Vikings.
Okay.
That's gonna give them the division. And
Really? So, because the
yes,
second game, I'm pretty sure, is at U.S. Bank Stadium,
that's in
right?
Minnesota. Yeah, that's in Minnesota.
Okay. So you think you got the Packers going into U.S. Bank Stadium and winning that week to kind of get the tiebreaker is what you're saying.
What is
Yeah.
this? What does this grin say? What does this grin say?
Okay. Okay. It's interesting because now, obviously, Brett Hundley, not Aaron Rodgers, but Packers scored 10 points last year on the Vikings in 2 games. Is Aaron Rodgers worth 45 points probably that it would take to win in at least one of those games, right? Because, I mean, I'm saying,
45?
no, 45 total. Like 22
total.
and a half a game is what I'm saying. Like, because I would imagine they'd have to score 24 in at least one of those games-ish, 24, 25 to win. Is Rodgers that much of a difference?
I think Kirk Cousins is the main difference because I don't think the defense is going to have a problem shutting him down.
Really? Okay. Okay. No, I can work with this. Because
okay.
So okay, the Vikings last year with Case Keenum, right? They put up top 10 numbers on offense, both rushing and passing. And now, would you say Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Case Keenum, or do you think it's a wash, or what? How do you feel about that? Because if you think,
I think Case Keenum was better in that offense.
Okay,
he was,
but now
fit for that offense,
right? So now the Vikings have a new offensive coordinator.
How Sam Bradford was. I felt like Sam Bradford was perfect in that offense
when he was healthy, which we get that.
Yeah, when he was
healthy.
But
but okay, because I feel, regardless of how you feel about how Kirk Cousins was paid, if you think it was too much, if you don't like the numbers, whatever, that you can feel how you want about that. But in the end, I think the Vikings upgraded that quarterback, and now that they have, and I mean, Keenum was more mobile. I think he made plays with his feet, and he made these weird, crazy, once in a lifetime plays like 4 times in a season, it seems like, where you just throw the ball up and Diggs or Thielen make a catch. I think you're going to have less of that this season with Cousins. And I think just by that, I think the Vikings offense is going to be even tougher to stop than it was with Keenum. So what you're saying is, are you more confident in the Packers defense this year than last year against the Vikings? I'm trying to put you on the spot here because I'm curious about what you're saying here.
That and just like the restored confidence in the Packers defense, and a combination of Kirk Cousins being Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
Kirk Cousins.
Okay, so you're not a Cousins
fan. No, not at all. He has never done anything that has made me just go like, "Wow, this guy's good! Oh my God, look at this guy! He is such a good football player, such a good quarterback." Like.
I always thought, I just remembered that it was it 2015 where Green Bay went into Washington and won that playoff game? Okay, so this is okay. I understand your perspective now, because the Redskins had a home game in the playoffs and it wasn't even close, right? Like that game wasn't even close.
35 to 18, I think.
Okay, yeah. So I understand a little bit more now.
But throwing that completely out the window, like disregarding that, I think Kirk Cousins, he's always been a product of the offense he's in. Like in Washington, when he had Jordan Reed, Deshaun Jackson, and they had some playmakers, with the Redskins. Sure. So I think now in the offense he's in, he's going to flourish. He's going to play better than he's ever played, because now he has Diggs, he has Thielen, he has Dalvin Cook. If I'm hoping he stays healthy, because I want to see that kid. I want to see that kid succeed. I want to see him play well. It's Kirk Cousins. I can't commit myself to Kirk Cousins and say that this guy is gonna play well against Green Bay's defense, which I'm, fingers crossed, expecting to play well.
Right. Okay.
You could throw your analytics at me.
No, I don't have it. See, that's the thing about Cousins, is that he has the cumulative numbers in the past 3 or 4 years that make him super special. Like, I think he's the only quarterback in the NFL the last 3 years to have 4,000 yards and 25 touchdowns in each season or something like that. And that's why everybody's like, oh, we got this quarterback that's going to hit all these big numbers. First time since Dante Culpepper the Vikings have had those numbers, which is great. But the one thing I'm concerned about with Cousins is the performance under pressure in the pocket. Keenum was actually pretty good at that last year, moving around, making plays that really shouldn't have been made, but he found a way to do it. I don't think Cousins has that ability, and the Vikings offensive line is far from perfect right now. So that's a bit of a concern, but I think his arm talent is there. I think once the Vikings, if they ever do figure out the offensive line and it's sturdy and stable and reliable, I think this offense can take off. But yeah, there's a lot of ifs. There's a lot of ifs. If the offensive line can stay healthy, if Dalvin Cook and the running game can stay reliable enough to set up the pass, I guess. But so you think the Packers and the Vikings will split this year, and you think the road teams are going to win, or do you think the Packers will sweep and also get the Week 2 win?
No, I think the Vikings come into Lambeau and win.
Okay.
In Week 2, I think, and then for a nice little touch of revenge, Rodgers goes into U.S. Bank, finally gets that win, that elusive win that he hasn't been able to capture yet.
Right.
Yeah. That's what I think.
Okay.
Kirk Cousins, I think Kirk Cousins too, back to your point about him not being great against pressure, wasn't he like one of the worst quarterbacks against pressure, I think last year or the year before?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's always been my concern about the addition. Like I said, overall upgrade. It's an upgrade. And it's stability because he's been healthy, knock on wood, but he's been healthy. And the Vikings have had injury after injury at quarterback. So I understand paying them money, but I need to see the performance under pressure. But kind of moving along here, just because the Packers offense, Rodgers and the Packers fans watching this right now, I know Zach has an army of followers and people that end up in my mentions whenever I tweet something trolling back to you. I firmly believe Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback to ever play. Like, that's my opinion. And
you've been adamant on that for a
I've
few
been
years
vocal
now.
about that, and my Viking followers don't like it. I also think Joe Buck is a good broadcaster, but that's another argument.
Me too.
Yeah, I think you agree. Yeah, you agree with me too. What kind of help is Rodgers getting from his receivers? No Jordy anymore. Devontae Adams is obviously really good. Probably top 10, top 15, top 5, maybe. I've seen top 5. I'm not going to go that far. I'll say top 10, maybe. Is Randall Cobb good anymore? I have no idea. And then who's going to be like the third receiver beside those two?
Well, Randall Cobb, he's definitely good. The thing is with him, he's always kind of used as like a decoy, so when he's roaming over the middle of the field, that kind of opens up things downfield. And he's not always getting those targets when there's film, just seeing on film of him. He has no problems getting open still. He has no problem showing off his speed. I'm just concerned about the foot ankle injury that he's been dealing with all offseason. Now, outside of Devontae Adams and Cobb, Geronimo Allison is going to go into the year as the Packers' number 3. Well, see, that's where it gets a little tricky because they also have Jimmy Graham, who obviously a tight end, but whatever the roster says, kick that aside. He's a 6'7" wide receiver basically, who plays from the slot. He's going to be one of their biggest contributors from the slot alongside Randall Cobb. So
that's
outside
scary,
of
by
those,
the way. Jimmy Graham in the slot is terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, Rodgers threw 5 passes, I think, in the second preseason game, or in the preseason total, and it was a touchdown to Jimmy Graham. That was it. So, I mean,
it's unfair.
It's going to be pretty crazy to watch.
That's one way for the Packers to counter the super athletic Vikings linebackers is to bring in a tight end that's a freak and can play receiver. So you have probably Anthony Barr, which I'm sure Packers fans are still very fond of, Anthony Barr, to cover Jimmy Graham. Like, that matchup will be really fun to watch if it ever unfolds, because those are two freak athletes that are huge for their size or huge for their position going against each other. So I guess I didn't even mention Jimmy Graham in the whole receiver conversation, but I mean, Adams, Graham, Cobb in the slot, you could do worse than that, right?
Not really. Yeah, no, it's going to give the Packers a lot of flexibility, because when they had Joe Philbin in the past, like in 2011, they had Greg Jennings, Donald Driver, James Jones, Randall Cobb, Jermichael Finley. They had guys that they would be able to come out 5 wide and just have Rodgers alone in shotgun. Like you're not able to defend all that. So if
And
the Packers can get
well,
back,
and right, and Mike McCarthy wouldn't have to do a whole lot as far as getting super complex. I mean, you get a guy running a route and Rodgers can time it perfectly. It's there, and it's a 15-yard gain.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to try too hard. Like you just have all these weapons, and you have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. There you go.
And especially because a lot of Philbin's offense is kind of based on those timing throws that you mentioned. A lot of, obviously in the past it was just Rodgers to Nelson. Now he has to find a new connection with Devontae Adams, or rebuild his connection with Randall Cobb, or formulate a new one with Geronimo Allison. Or you got these three rookie receivers. Geronimo.
Is that the best name in sports?
It's up there.
The best name in sports? It's got to be.
It's up. Yeah, it's up there for sure. And then you got those three rookie receivers too: Equanimous St. Brown, Jamon Moore, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They're supposed to contribute in a big way. It's going to be interesting to watch too. Those guys they got a lot of work to do. To earn his trust, especially.
Right. Okay, so these receivers. So you have Adams, Graham, Cobb, Allison, St. Brown. All those other names that I don't even remember what you said anymore of those names. I can't remember them. I don't know who they are yet. And then you have the Viking secondary: Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes, Mackenzie Alexander, Mike Hughes, obviously Harrison Smith. Do you see? Okay, so in this game that you see the Packers winning at some point this season, I think you predicted the Week 13 game. I think it's Week 13. Do you see the receivers of Green Bay winning the battle against the Vikings secondary? Or do you just see Jimmy Graham lighting it up against the Vikings linebackers? Or how do you see that unfolding?
I was mostly worried about Terrence Newman. But, I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Okay. Oh, yeah. That's true. I should have mentioned that. Now that's that's a huge loss. The 40-year-old guy in the secondary that would probably be a healthy scratch every single week. His retirement, that's huge for the Packers. I forgot to mention that.
It is huge. They're going to take advantage of that. Anybody that goes across the field against the Vikings, you got to watch out for Anthony Barr. You got to watch out for Harrison Smith, especially, who I still think is the best safety in football. Really winning those matchups.
That's how you win over some Packers. That's how you win over some Vikings fans right there.
And that's how you lose some Packers fans. So yeah, it's to win those matchups, it's going to take a lot of outside work, a lot of work on the perimeter, because we know for sure that offense isn't going to be based on Rodgers hitting a three-step drop and hitting his guy immediately, coming out of his break. Rodgers is going to have to make some plays himself, and he's going to roll out of the pocket. And this is where like these rookie receivers are going to need to master. I actually tweeted this last night. They have to master coming back to the quarterback when he breaks the pocket and he rolls out. Come back to the quarterback, probably work the sideline a little bit. That's where Rodgers will hit you. That's where you can get open and
see that so many times with Rodgers. When he gets out of the pocket and you think you got him, he breaks out of the pocket and he throws some 20-yard pass down the sideline, and it's one of those plays where the defense does everything they're supposed to do in the secondary. You just lose contain, and I mean you can't ask cornerbacks to cover for 7 seconds and he makes a play, and that's the most annoying thing about Aaron Rodgers. Right there.
Yeah, it's impossible asking a cornerback to cover for that long. That's one of the hardest positions in sports or in football.
It is.
Quarterback and cornerback. People underestimate how hard that position is, I swear. But that was one of the big things Rodgers mastered with Jordy Nelson. Nelson always came back to the ball. He knew where to be when Rodgers escaped the pocket. So that's something these receivers are going to have to do. It's chemistry. That's a huge part of it. So if they're going to have success against the Vikings secondary, then you're going to see a lot of that. If he can even escape the pocket, because I know the Vikings pass rush is going to be, off the
It's decent. Chain. It's decent.
Yeah, it's all right.
I got one more bone to pick with you, and then we'll kind of get into a couple of bold predictions, and then we'll wrap up our season predictions. We'll maybe try to do this kind of a game preview for each Vikings-Packers game, and maybe throughout the season we'll do it again to kind of see, once the Packers are like 1-7 and the Vikings are 8-0, we'll go and revisit. But Mike,
how to fit that in?
Yeah, of course. With Mike McCarthy, now I've always been of the opinion that Mike McCarthy, not a fantastic coach, but he's still has his job because Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. Now, I know you disagree with that because I've seen your take on this on Twitter. Just answer this question for me. Is Mike McCarthy still the Packers head coach right now if Aaron Rodgers had, like, let's say 5 years ago, Aaron Rodgers with his collarbone, he broke it. He's like, I'm hanging it up. I'm done. I'm not playing football anymore. He calls it quits. Is Mike McCarthy still the head coach of the Packers right now?
No.
Okay. So do you agree with me then that Mike McCarthy is largely a success because he's been a head coach for 12 years because of Aaron Rodgers?
Well, no, you got to add some context behind it. Okay, let's say Rodgers breaks his collarbone in 2013 in that game against the Bears, Sunday Night Football.
Yep.
The Packers were put into a terrible predicament with Seneca Wallace.
That's right.
Seneca Wallace, Scott Tolzien, and eventually Matt Flynn. That did end up happening. Let's say the GOAT, Matt Flynn. Watch your mouth. Season ends. Rodgers decides, oh, you know what? My collarbone is dust. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. Like you said, he retires. He hangs it up. He's done for good. This quarterback that you drafted 8 years prior, not you as in Mike McCarthy, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He's gone for good. The guy who you expected to be your franchise for the next coming few years, he is done for good. That's it. That puts a huge hole in your plans as a football team moving forward. How do you rebound from that? What coach rebounds from that other than Bill Belichick, obviously, because he's Gandalf, he can do anything. What coach
I
rebounds?
Understand where you're coming from here. Okay.
Here's
my counterpoint. Counterpoint. Okay. Because remember last season when Rodgers did go down and there was all this speculation about Kaepernick coming in and the Packers should sign Kaepernick, and McCarthy was adamant to the press. No, I love where my QB room is at. Brett Hundley, we've invested so much time in this guy. He's our backup. We feel good about him. That tells me he's had this backup plan with Rod. Like he knows that he needs to have a backup plan in case Rodgers gets hurt or is not able to play for whatever reason, right? So it's his responsibility to be able to compete without Rodgers in that event. And from what I've seen, in both instances, the Packers have not been able to. They just got lucky in 2013 when it was at 8 wins, won the division. Like that won't happen now. Yeah.
Is McCarthy solely responsible though for Brett Hundley being as bad as he was?
No. I'm not. He developed. It's obviously a team effort.
Right? Yeah. He helped develop, played a big part in developing Rodgers. And then everybody kind of claims him to be this quarterback guru because he had this quarterback school. But I think people are putting a lot on his shoulders as far as that quarterback school goes and expecting him to be like some kind of like magician with young quarterbacks and be able to turn them into like gods or something. Brett Hundley could have just been bad, which he was at points last season. Now,
yeah, I could vouch for that.
Yeah, of course you can. What's he supposed to say at that press conference? Is he supposed to show no confidence in the two guys?
He said the right words, but it's the way he said them, because he was like pounding fists like Dwight when he gave that acceptance speech when he won the Best Salesman Award or whatever. And he was just going after the media, and it's like, just say you're not interested in Kaepernick. Like, just that's all you have to say.
Hey, if I'm a quarterback on the roster and I'm going to be put in a position to play, like I'm Brett Hundley or I'm Joe Callahan, and I'm going to be thrown into a position to play like that, I want my coach to adamantly defend me like that. Like I want him to get fired up like that. I want him to defend my job. So I'm fully behind how McCarthy handled that. Now, if I was in that position, I would have brought in Colin Kaepernick. I absolutely would have brought him in.
All right. Now, one more response to that, because I feel obligated to say this. Mm-hmm. Vikings in 2016, Teddy Bridgewater goes down. Obviously, they bring in Sam Bradford. Vikings go 5-0. Offensive line injuries pile up, and they lose and go 8-8. Next season, the Vikings lose their starting quarterback again, Case Keenum comes in for $2 million on the salary. Vikings go 13-3, NFC Championship game berth. Packers lose their starting quarterback, and Brett Hundley is Brett Hundley. Packers finish 7-9 after a 3-1 start. I'm just saying that's why I'm skeptical of Mike McCarthy as head coach, and I feel like Rodgers and the Packers as a whole are being slightly limited because he's still the head coach, and that's because he started with Rodgers as quarterback, or I guess he might have started during Favre, but Rodgers was with him. I don't know. That's just my take.
It helps having a top 3 defense, doesn't it, Drew?
It does. It does. It does.
That defense.
The Vikings offense. How good was the Vikings offense last year? It wasn't garbage. Like Case Keenum,
pretty good.
Journeyman backup, a few starts, led an offense to top 10. In the NFL.
You know what? How many years was Keenum in the league before that?
2013, 2012. I don't know. He's only got like a year or two on Hundley. If that's what you're, I'm kind of comparing it to Hundley right now. But obviously he had more starts, more experience. I get that. But I don't know. It's just a fun.
More experience. I mean,
yeah. It's just a fun convo because I feel like there's a.
When Bridgewater.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Bradford example is probably not the best because of the offensive line falling apart and 8-8 finish. But anyway, we'll get to some bold predictions for the season. We can maybe do 3. We'll do 3. We'll kind of alternate, and then we'll like for example, I'll give a bold prediction. You can react, and then vice versa. We'll make them kind of quick here. I'm going to start because this is one I felt strongly about since the Cousins edition. Kyle Rudolph will lead the NFL in receiving touchdowns. Your take?
I don't know about that, man. Kyle Rudolph. I mean, you did say bold predictions, so I mean,
these are going to be every one of these is going to raise eyebrows one way or the other. Like I'm going to look at yours and be like, "What are you talking about, dude?" And vice versa,
that raised both of my eyebrows. Okay. Aaron Rodgers will lead all quarterbacks in rushing yards.
Rushing yards. So I don't doubt his ability to do that. But wouldn't that scare you if he's out there running around and getting tackled?
Oh my God, I would hate it. I would have heart palpitations every week.
If I were you, I would not want any of that to happen. Now, will he lead his team in rushing yards, and running backs? Because he did that before once, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
I think he did that once before. Okay. I got another one here, and it's going to be, I'll say 1,600 scrimmage yards for Dalvin Cook this year.
Okay.
Can you see
that? That's actually not. Yeah, I can see that actually. That's not out of the realm of possibility. If he stays healthy for a full 16 games, that's definitely possible. Because we saw what he was doing for the first 4 games.
Yeah, last year I think he was on pace for something close to that, and then obviously the ACL. But all right,
that was weak.
I was looking for more of a skeptical response from you, but all right, maybe I should have upped it to like.
I told you I like Dalvin Cook. I told you I like Dalvin Cook. I know. I'm not going to dispute that. Okay. Packers finished top 3 in takeaways. The defense.
Really? Is this from fumbles? Is this from interceptions? What is this from?
Fumbles and interceptions, like takeaways.
Okay. Fumbles and interceptions. Okay. That's bold. That's very bold because this again the secondary. I am very, very low on for right now. Yeah. I remember Xavier Rhodes when he was rookie in his second season, and I remember Trey Waynes in his rookie season. Not awesome. So that's kind of the standard for my expectations for the Packers secondary this season. A third bold prediction. Here's one. Everson Griffin and Danielle Hunter combined for 30 sacks. I think they combined for 21 last year. 22.
So you think they're going to go for 30?
Yeah.
Oh, bold prediction. That's wow.
30. That'd be 15 each. I bet Griffin gets to 17, 18. Hunter gets 12.
You think Griffin's gonna get 17 or 18? Oh my
Oh
god,
yeah,
man! Come on.
he had 13 last year, and he had plantar fasciitis for over half the season. So, I
I
mean,
don't know if we'll be able to repeat that though. That's the hardest part.
okay, I
Following
will add this.
following up
I'm going to
greatness.
add this because
Okay.
the Vikings defense on third down last year was what 24% allowed. Like I am not expecting that to be repeated. That's like all time great. Like it's one of those that you just can't repeat. Like Adrian Peterson's rushing season, that's fully healthy. You can't expect that ever to happen again. But I think there are reasons to expect other things can improve with the Vikings defense. The pass rush did get home as much as I would have thought last year. They bring in Sheldon Richardson, a 3-tech that can rush the passer a lot better than their 3-tech last year. I think that will make things a lot easier as far as rushing the passer. Third down defense, as far as percentage allowed, might be a little bit worse, but getting home for sacks is I think, going to go way up this season because of the addition of Sheldon Richardson. So that's why I think 30 sacks is very possible for those two combined.
Okay. I'm trying to think about how I can word this.
Are you wording a response to that, or are you doing a different bold prediction?
My third bold prediction.
Okay.
How can I? Okay. Here goes. Devontae Adams and Jimmy Graham. They'll combine for more receiving touchdowns than the runner up. Then twice the amount of the
duo?
No, then the runner up double what the runner up has. So let's say just single. So let's say Devontae Adams has 14 touchdowns. Let's say Jimmy Graham has 12. So give him 26.
Okay.
Let's say
so the next person would have less than 13.
Yeah. Let's say the next runner-up in receiving touchdowns has maybe like 12 or 13. Double that, give him 24 or 26. Yeah. You get it.
See, I think that's actually very possible because Jimmy Graham is terrifying to me, and Devontae Adams. But like the default number one for the Packers receivers, like the last 10 years, has always been fantasy, like a fantasy god. It's just been that way. Whether it's Jordy or whether it's Greg Jennings or now Devontae Adams. So I definitely see that happening, but I will say this, that I think 13 touchdowns is very possible for Kyle Rudolph this year. So your bar for those guys then would be 27. So 27 touchdowns for Adams and Graham combined. That's what you got to get.
Well, that was just an example. I think they'll get more.
I know. But I'm saying Rudolph will get 13 touchdowns, so that's the bar. That's just what I'm saying.
That's the bar now?
Yeah, because so what you're saying for sure then is that one of those guys is going to lead the league in touchdowns, right? If I'm doing my math correctly, which
yes.
Yeah,
I think it'll be Devontae Adams.
Okay, which, I mean, if James Jones can lead the league in touchdowns, then Devontae Adams surely can. All right, well, we will let's close here with kind of our standings for the NFC North, because I think you have the Packers as number one, you said earlier. I'll kind of go through mine right now with records. Vikings 11-5. I think a lot went right that maybe shouldn't have last season. The defense was healthy essentially the whole season, which I'm not expecting to happen again. That's just one of those too good to be true type things. And that also led to that third down defense figure that I just don't think is repeatable. Plus the Vikings schedule is horrifying. They have road games at the Rams, at the Eagles, at the Patriots, at the Packers, obviously, and the Bears are now scary. So 11-5 for me. I got Packers. I'll go 10-6. I'll give Aaron Rodgers 10 wins. He'll win some. He'll win a couple of games just because he's Aaron Rodgers. And I'm gonna say Bears are gonna go 9-7. And the Lions will go 8-8. So the NFC North will have 4 teams at 500 or better this season, and I think it's very, very realistic that there are 3 NFC North teams in the playoffs this season.
Okay, I like it. Mine aren't too far off, actually. Like I said earlier, I have the Packers at number 1 at 11-5, Vikings at 11-5 as well, but the Packers on that Week 13 tiebreaker. At US Bank Stadium. And then number 3, the Bears. I have them going 8-8, and then 4, the Lions going 7-9. Which
Okay.
it sucks because I love Matthew Stafford. You know, he's I think one of the most underrated quarterbacks. Yeah, he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in football right now, and never gets enough credit. But I'm here.
I was listening to. I think it was actually Pardon My Take on Barstool, and Big Cat was saying that Matthew Stafford's could be a Hall of Famer, and I was like, whoa, hey, take it easy. But then he was mentioning his career stats, and it's like it's very possible that he gets there if he stays healthy and plays because they pass the ball a ton. Detroit does, and he's going to get the cumulative numbers over his career. Where it's very possible that just by his final rankings and those stats, that he is a Hall of Famer, even if they never win a playoff game.
I've seen that narrative go around the last few weeks. You know, and people whoever said
has he missed time ever? He's always healthy. He plays all 16 games, and he throws 50 times a game. He's going to end up with a top 10 figure in passing yards, something like that, of all time.
He's going to end up with like Drew Brees kind of stats. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, he won't have a playoff win, or I don't think he doesn't have a playoff win. But he just by that, he'll have Hall of Fame qualifications. But anyway, that's a tangent. But Zach, I guess that wraps it up. If there's any other hot takes you have, drop them right now. Otherwise, I'm going to clip everything you said about that Week 13 game, and I'm going to replay it that week so that you're just on blast from Vikings Twitter. So and we'll probably try and do this again for each Vikings game or each Vikings-Packers game. But any final words, any final takes, and maybe you can endorse the Cheesehead TV a little bit too.
Final takes. I'm not much of a hot take connoisseur anymore. Yeah, I'm running dry. I think I
should Ty Montgomery change his jersey number. There you go.
Oh,
I'll ask you that.
Oh, don't get me started on that. I am so sick of these running backs wearing wide receiver numbers. It is an advantage for the offense, and it is just wrong. It is disrespectful to the game of football.
Mr. Benoit, calm down. Calm down, please. All right? No, I'm kidding. All right.
Have you heard about his irrational fear or his passion for milk or something? He loves milk. Yeah. He loves milk. Like more than any normal human.
I haven't had milk in a month. And I can drink milk. I just don't have it. I don't eat breakfast, so I don't have it for breakfast. I just drink water. I don't know. That's weird. That's really weird.
It really is.
Anyway.
I mean, he looks like the kind of dude that would just that.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys can find me on Twitter at Zach A. Jacobson. It's ZACH, not ZACK. Or ZEK, like Starbucks recently spelled it on my cup. Swear to God, true story.
ZK on your Starbucks cup.
Yeah.
So now you should change your Twitter, not your handle, but your Twitter name to Zach.
Yeah.
Zach Jacobson. There you go. But yeah, I can vouch for Zach. He's a go-to for Packers info, for Packers analysis. Most of the time it's unbiased. I'll give him that. So, but Zach, we'll have Zach on again. Always a great time talking with him. Zach, thanks for coming on, and we'll be sure to do this. Be sure to follow Vikings Territory on Twitter at Viking Territory, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow the About the Labor now show, not a podcast anymore, but the show on Twitter as well. Zach, once again, thank you, and go Vikings 2-0, sweep the Packers this year, right? We agree? Perfect.
Just